All right. I'm going to go ahead and get on into this. So, 3 keys to your dream body. I'm actually really excited about this one. I had a lot of fun kind of putting this together because I feel like I just see this a lot. And I just want to start with like, we all have like this vision of like this dream body that we would like, right? So, like, this is for everyone, right? We all have this. And I don't really think it's a bad thing. And in fact, what I want to do though is kind of frame what I mean by like dream body. So, my intention really here is that our dream body really is the healthiest version of ourselves. So, not only health is supported, but like us feeling confident. And I think that if we could have those two things, like we're healthy and we feel confident, like, yeah, that's our dream body. So I want to just be really clear. Like, that's my intention when I say dream body. I don't mean this unrealistic expectation that, might happen for a moment, right? I want health as well as confidence. I want those two things kind of married. So I think it's important that we kind of just frame it that way. Now, you could certainly Google, and I did because I just want to see what's out there, how to get your dream body. You find plenty of protocols. It's not that those things don't exist. There's certainly diets, protocols, strategies to do that. I think what I see just lacks in this space is just like being comprehensive about it, though, right? We tend to only look at, let's say, getting your dream body in terms of one lens, like nutrition and exercise, which we're going to cover. Like, you can't get away from that. I'm a nutrition coach. Of course, we're going to talk about nutrition. But that's like one piece. There's so much more to the whole puzzle, right? It's definitely important, but definitely not everything. So I really want to like help us zoom back and say like, okay, what all needs to be in place for us to really get this dream body where we're healthy, but also just feeling good in our skin. So I put together 3 fundamentals, like 3 keys that I think that just really need to be in place in order for us to accomplish having our dream body. So the first thing, number one, is we really have to reestablish our expectations. So before we dive into tactics, which I'm going to give you, so don't worry that I'm not going to that I'm going to talk only like up here about this. No, I'm certainly going to give you tactics, but before we get there, like, let's just reestablish some expectations. So first thing I want you to do in terms of like reestablishing your true expectation of this dream body is let go of a goal weight. That's going to be hard. Some of you probably are like, no, but we really do. We really need to detach our dream body from this specific number, because the thing is, like, there's no ideal body weight for all people. Like, I can't say like, hey, this is the weight you should be at. There's way too many factors that really determine that. And really, like, you cannot predict what weight you're going to feel, look, and just be your best at. Like, there's no way you can know what that really is, right? Again, remember, the goal is that we find a weight that supports both your health and you feeling your best. And I guarantee that you, number one, cannot predict what that number is. And two, that your dream body actually exists at a heavier weight than you think anyways. So number one, we're just going to throw away a goal weight, because I just don't think that the number is really important. It's really about like health and then again, feeling good. So I don't really care what that number is as long as those two things are there. So let's just throw that goal weight out the window, because we really don't know what it is. Okay. Now, one thing we could look at in terms of this number is maybe like body composition. Certainly, I think that there are guidelines, I guess, that you could use. So number one, like, women should fall between like 20 and 30% body fat. That's typically where you're going to be and feel your best. Men, a little lower, 15 to 25%. Because there are certainly body fat percentages that are going to compromise our health. And they lie in those extremes: less than 20% for women and over 30% for women. For men, less than 15% and over 25%. Certainly, we can say with certainty, risk factors go up for our health when we are outside of these norms. So if anything, maybe we could just look at like making sure body fat percentage is within a healthy range. Okay. We'll come back to this in a bit, but that might be the only number I say might be worth sort of looking at. Okay. Second thing we need to kind of let go of is this need to always be the leanest version of ourselves, right? So look, the images that we are shown of fit and healthy people, I'm going to say most are actually not healthy. They're sitting at super low body fat levels, and it's just unrealistic. It puts these images in our minds where we think, oh, I have to look like that. As a woman, I have to have abs, or as a man, I have to have six pack abs, right? And number one, it's super unrealistic for most of us to get there. Two, it's really difficult to sustain, especially for the long haul. And three, it's really hard on you physically as well as like psychologically. So I gave you those ranges of body fat percentages. Like women, once we start going under 20%, like we're certainly stepping into a danger zone. And once we're like near that 14%, like that's just where you're really going to just feel terrible. And physiologically, like things are going to start to not work the way they should. And there's a reason for that. We need a certain amount of body fat on our bodies for just optimal health. For men, same thing. Once they're under like 15%, they're really kind of just playing with a very like dangerous line. And anything under 5%, like you don't feel good, right? It's just not a space where you want to be. So being this leanest version of ourselves, we have to kind of let go of that, because if we're always chasing fat loss, we're actually never going to get to the point where we can be intentional about this dream body, meaning you can like create your shape. You have the ability to actually build the body that you would like. Let me just FYI, that never happens in a deficit. You are not building your dream body in a deficit. You're going to build the shape that you want, both men and women, when you are eating at maintenance or possibly a small surplus, right? And we'll get more into that in a moment. But if we can just let go of like, oh, I want to be like super, super lean, and we can let go of like chasing fat loss all the time and say like, I got to get comfortable at maintenance, because that's actually where I'm going to do the hard work of building the shape that I want, right? It's going to be sustainable, that we're actually at maintenance for a majority of the time. It's going to support health, which is, one of our goals here. And it's going to support us both like physically and mentally. We're not going to be like, knocking our heads against the wall, like trying to be this thing that we really can't be all the time, right? And so, like I was saying, your dream body is actually built during maintenance time, not when you're dieting. That's, ladies, that sculpted tone look that we all talk about, that we all want, really is built at maintenance, possibly a small surplus. That's not for everybody. And then if we go into a very strategic an intentional fat loss phase, we will reveal this dream body, right? And so we'll talk a little bit about how we do that, but we cannot actually reveal that shape that we're looking to get just dieting, especially if we're just dieting all the time. Last thing we have to let go of is a timeline. Like it's not going to happen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, right? Our focus shouldn't be on this end date. It really should be on the process, because ultimately, like what we want is for this to last. Like we'd love to attain this dream body and then keep it. I really don't want to have it for like 6 weeks and then lose it, because I can't hold on to the results, right? And so anytime we're looking for shortcuts or hacks, unfortunately, what we're doing is really just, we're really extending the time until we get to our dream body. You are creating both physical and psychological damage that will have to be undone at some point, right? And so if you look at it like that, that quick fix you did for like, I don't know, 14 days or 30 days really ended up setting you back. And now you have to spend all this time undoing whatever damage that did, whether that's metabolic damage, whether that's psychological damage. And so really the shortest route to what we want is to just accept the fact that this is a long process and just start and commit to it and understand that we're doing it the right way. And so really, it's not about an end date. I mean, it's really about creating, the environment that allows like our lifestyle to support this dream body. So for this, just accept that it's really going to take longer than you think, or want. Okay. So that's our first key, is that we really need to reestablish some expectations, right? So we're going to let go of a goal weight. It doesn't matter. We don't know and we cannot predict what the scale is going to say when we have that dream body. We're going to let go of the idea that we can be our leanest at all times. We cannot, not for our own sanity as well as our own health. We're going to just let go of a timeline, because it's just going to take longer. And if we could just embrace that, it's just going to be a lot easier, because we won't be miserable thinking, gosh, I'm failing, or I'm doing it wrong, or, being miserable in the meantime. Okay. Second, here's where you're like, I knew this was coming. Once we establish realistic expectations and we have that piece in place, we need a plan. Of course we need a plan. Yes, but not just any plan. We need a very intentional and very personalized plan, right? So you have to go into this thinking what is my goal? And then what is going to work for me? And I'm sorry that you just cannot do the thing your friend did or your sister did or whoever did, celebrity. It's not tailored to you. You have no idea why that worked for that person and in their circumstances. And it's just the idea of oh, well, so-and-so took this medication to feel better. I'm just going to take that medication, right? It's no, you have to go through the proper channels of figuring out well, why did they get prescribed XYZ? There might've been so many factors that we just didn't know about. So here are the things in terms of your plan that need to be in place. Of course, your nutrition, right? I'm a nutrition coach. You knew that was coming, right? Of course, that's going to be part of this. So with the idea that we know it's going to take a while, in fact, let's just think in terms of years. You have to be able to see yourself doing this for the long term, right? Now, here's the thing. Perfection just starts to get in the way here. And I talk a lot about this, about letting it go and taking it off the table. So instead, let's just focus on what does 80% of the time look like, right? And so I like to give that metric to my clients to say hey, 80% of the time looks like 1.5 days out of the week where it's not super ideal. Or we could zoom back and look at a month. In a month, you have 6 days where you don't have to be on track. These are not moments of we just do whatever the heck we want or we go overboard, but certainly where it's okay that we had pizza or a burger or we had a glass of wine or, we did those things that are not necessarily the most nutritious, but maybe they fill a different, what's the word I want? A need, right? And so it's okay. It's okay that you don't always choose to have fruits and veggies. It's okay, that you want to celebrate and have, a margarita. I had one yesterday. I had brunch with my sister. I never get time with her, and she was able to get away from her two littles. And I was like, yes, let's have one. Right. So I think that understanding that it doesn't mean that we are always eating perfectly, but that nutrition is dialed in and we have metrics where we can say, oh, great, we're staying within this 80% of the time. I think that extends to just understanding you're going to have to cook more at home, and find whatever that means for you. I am queen of making things so simple. Tonight is literally ground beef, a can of beans, tomatoes, and then some rice, in a pan. It's just an undone burrito. I don't really feel like doing anything special, but I'm going to get plenty of protein, some good carbs, a lot of fiber and fat out of that. Awesome. It's not going to be pretty either, but it's going to be super tasty. I love air fryers for that because I think they're super fast and you don't have to have a lot of skill. Slow cookers, right? Use all those types of hacks in order to just get better quality food. On that note, I think we really need to just consider alcohol. I just brought that up. In terms of getting your dream body, I think we don't have to give it up forever, but I think it does need to have a very small place in the diet, right? I think that the more we try to make exceptions for that, this is where we start to kind of go off track for so many reasons. And that could be a whole other training. But Yeah, I think we have to just be really intentional about that. Yes, you can have it, but I think in terms of your goals, it might be a much more just a smaller part of what you're doing on a weekly basis. I don't think anyone's going to be surprised about this. You got to eat some protein. I mean, while you are building your dream body, protein is going to end up being just the building blocks of that. And it's necessary for so many reasons. And really, in terms of creating that shape. And then when we are revealing that shape, protein is going to be a big player in that. And last, in terms of your nutrition, I think we need to really just understand how we moderate our favorite foods, which I sort of talked about with the alcohol, but I think there's a little less room for error with alcohol. Our favorite foods, look, they're always going to be there. We have to learn to live with them. I would much rather someone learn how to enjoy them, within moderation than restrict them and then unravel because they haven't been able to have their favorite foods, right? Take the control away from the food itself by setting up parameters for yourself. And that's going to be a process. Like some people need to start with like not having it around or just introducing small amounts, right? Until we get to a place where we're really in control of that. Okay, so we need nutrition. We need to strength train. Of course, you knew this was coming as well, right? Again, I just talked about how like you literally can sculpt and change and create the shape you want. There's a whole genre of workouts called bodybuilding. And I'm not saying we need to be bodybuilders. I'm not a bodybuilder, but we can certainly see that like you have the ability to literally shape your body, right? I don't think, again, we need to be as extreme. I think bodybuilding, that whole world can be a little bit too a little toxic, to be honest. But we can certainly take from that the fact that like we are in control of our shape and there are things that we can do and be intentional about. And so it's important that we kind of lean into some of that and use that to our advantage so that when we do go to reveal that shape, we have actually been intentional about what that shape will look like, right? I don't really suggest tons of cardio. It won't sculpt or tone. It has no ability to do that. Cardio is completely catabolic, meaning it breaks down. It's going to break down tissue. It's going to want to burn that muscle. Muscle's super dense. Muscle doesn't weigh more than fat. It's actually more compact. So a pound of muscle and a pound of muscle, fat, obviously both weigh a pound, but the pound of muscle will take up less room. So you can literally be the same weight, but if you've shifted and lost body fat but gained muscle, you will look smaller, even though the scale says the same thing. Muscle is also really expensive to keep. The body has to like kind of expend a lot of energy to hold on to it. This obviously is helpful in terms of like metabolic rate, meaning we can eat more to sustain our current weight. So I love strength training for what it adds. Cardio, I would really leave that to, if you enjoy it, maybe twice a week, but understand it's not contributing to your dream body. It really isn't. And it's not burning as many calories as you think. Whatever your watch or whatever activity tracker you have, it's not true. Number one, they're overestimating. Two, has no idea truly the amount of energy it's taking you. We could, again, do a whole other training on that, but it's not burning as many calories as you think. So it's not doing what you think it's doing. It's really just making you hungry and stressing you out. Typically what that ends up looking like is the skinny fat look where we're smaller, but we're not, I would not consider that your dream body by any means. So, okay. And then along with strength training, we want to be walking. I mean, if you know me, you know that I'm like constantly pushing the walking lever. Like it's free. Like anybody can do it unless you have an injury. That's like literally the only time that you can't really. I would certainly trade your intense cardio for walking, just to keep it as short and sweet. It's going to keep activity high, which we want. We want to be active. Activity does help us, create that body that we want while not stressing the body out, while not increasing hunger, while not making this process more difficult. Okay. I don't want to say too much more about that because you guys probably already know how much I love walking. All right. And the last piece of your plan is that sleep and stress management just have to be a part of it. It is probably one of the biggest things that's going to kill your progress. You could be eating perfectly. You could be like hitting all your targets. You could be training, exactly like you should be. But if you're not sleeping enough and stress is just super high, like there's just nothing I can do about the fact that you are literally sending a signal to your body that you are not in a good space, that you're not safe, right? And so the body is going to interpret that. The body will not allow certain things to happen because your survival is so important. And so we have to take those things seriously. And I always place sleep and stress together because they tend to just like coincide all the time, meaning like if you're not sleeping enough, you're stressing out the body. When you're stressed, your sleep is impacted, right? And so like they just always tend to end up kind of impacting one another. And I really can't like take them out. Like, let's say stress is really high right now. Like there are just times when, yeah, stress is high and we can't get away from that. Like, can you lean into sleep to at least unburden the body from part of the stress that's happening there, allow the body recovery, allow the mind time to do what it needs to do as you sleep. There's so much psychological benefit to sleep as well. I mean, also like the fact that like with less and less sleep, we will literally kind of like lose our minds. So if you want really that dream body, it's going to come, I don't want to say at the expense, but at the intention of you making sleep and stress management, I should say, a priority. Okay. So we know that there are certain expectations that we have to alter. We now know like there has to be a plan. It has to include nutrition, exercise, and then like this stress management piece, right? Last, and I think this is the part that I don't see very often. Like you might see people talk about mindset. You're going to obviously hear people talk about nutrition and exercise, right? I don't think that middle part was like mind blowing to anybody. But I think this last piece is where like we get tripped up, and I don't think we talk about it enough. And that's that we have to do the hard internal work that's actually going to help us keep those results, right? I did a whole training last week on how not to self-sabotage. And we talked about self-sabotage and like why we do it and, how we can at least start to steer ourselves away from that. What are strategies, right? So if you missed that training, it was a good one. Go back to that one. But at some point, like we have to do the work that's going to help us change into the person that's going to keep these results, right? Because there's probably a reason we don't have our dream body. And the farther away we are, we want to start asking some questions like, am I in my own way? And by the way, we're always in our own way. This is not like just you. And that's just, we're just complex. We're very complex as humans. A lot of times, like our behavior, like it just doesn't match with our intentions. Like, I want to be this healthy person. Like, why do I keep self-sabotaging? Right. And so we just have to understand, like, there's probably some like complex issues happening there. Right. And so one of the things that we know that like, as we change, especially like the bigger the change is, like, we have to understand that like whoever we are today is probably not the best version of the person who's going to have those results. So for example, like if I want to be wealthy, I'm not wealthy right now, but if I wanted to be like ultra wealthy, let's say, like I'm not the person to be ultra wealthy yet, but can I become that person? Absolutely. But it's going to require that I start like understanding money differently and doing different things with my money, and my lifestyle will probably have to change, and my whole like thought process around money, right? Like whoever Andrea is as ultra wealthy, which by the way, I don't really want to be ultra wealthy, but whoever that Andrea is not who I am today. I don't have the skill set. I don't have the mindset, right? And I probably have to do a lot of work before I could even become that person, because there's probably things that stand in my way in terms of like how I deal with finances. Right. And so I think this really starts with just understanding that we have to start asking really hard questions in a non-judgmental way. I think I talk about this a lot too. It's just like getting curious, like, that's interesting. why do I always do XYZ? Like, there's just like this attitude of curiosity that has to kind of happen in order for us to start digging and understand like what's keeping us really from implementing the things that we need to implement, right? This could mean investing in therapy, which I highly suggest for anybody, right? Hiring a coach to help walk you through that or help ask the hard questions with you, or both, right? If you're struggling with self sabotage and you want to get to the root of it, like you have to step outside of yourself to say, okay, like I don't have all the things that I need in order to be successful here, right? Um, we also kind of need along those lines support. And while therapy or a coach can definitely provide that, having support like friends and family, coworkers is going to go a long way, right? That just provides accountability. And I think that just helps us start to kind of like change some of those habits. And then we have people that can like walk us through when it's hard, because it will get hard. I mean, that's just part of any process of change, not just this one here. So I think that finding support, getting accountability, and ultimately like moving that accountability to more internal accountability. A lot of people need external accountability. We get on a call, I get on calls with people and they'll tell me like, I just need accountability. Great. I can absolutely provide that. And I'm happy to do that. At some point though, I hope that, you can provide that for yourself. That would be the goal, right? That you're not constantly needing someone else to check in on you or, provide what should really be coming from an internal place. So, all right. That's what I got for your dream body. You need 3 things. We're going to reset those expectations, right? Meaning let go of that goal weight. You don't need to be the leanest version of yourself. That person is not healthy, both physically and psychologically. And you need to just throw the timeline away. Like the process is really what we need, right? 2, you need a very intentional plan. That's going to include being very intentional about your nutrition, doing strength training to create the shape you really want, which I find fascinating. You can accentuate, you can grow, you can shape literally your body to be what you would like it to be. I think too, you need a ton of walking, and I think you need to manage stress and sleep. And last, if you want to keep all that, we've got to do the hard internal work. I think that piece will just tie it up in a nice bow, and mean that you get to keep your results, and you get to be that happier version of yourself because you've dealt with whatever barriers we all have that stand in your way. There it is, how to get your dream body. All right. Well, I hope that was helpful for you guys. Again, I really loved putting that together. I think really pulling that together. What I really wanted to do is just provide people with a framework, and pull back and say like, hey, there's a lot more to this than just like a diet or a specific workout program. So yeah, there we go. All right, guys. It's been great. I will be back next Monday with a new training. Have a wonderful week and we'll talk soon. All right. Bye, guys.